court, who I believe is now joining us by phone. And with me is Mr. House.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Heather Perkins of Faegre Dinker on behalf of Defendant Jackson.
All right, Counsel. We're here for a status conference in light of the remand. And I was refreshing my memory on this case. Looks like I did issue a final pretrial order previously. And so it appears we were through the discovery period. There were several motions that were pending at the time I issued the final pretrial order. And as you know, Judge Brimmer has reinstated some of those motions. Did you all get a chance to confer before this conference to decide or see if you're on the same page in terms of where we are and what schedule I might need to set, if any?
We did, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Oh, okay, I'll let you go. Go ahead, Ms. Perkins.
Sorry, Mr. Japha. The limitations of doing this on the phone. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you very much. We did confer before, and I think we're in agreement that until the court rules upon the motions that have been reinstated, there are a couple motions that have been reinstated, and then he's asked for the parties' position on whether other motions are moot, and the parties have submitted their positions on that. Until he rules on those motions, there's really no deadlines that need to be set. Once he rules, presumably he will have the parties to set a trial date, and at that point we would have deadlines that would be triggered off of the trial date for the case, but we didn't see any need to set any deadlines in the interim until those rulings come down.
Okay.
Yeah, plaintiff is in agreement with that. That is precisely what we conferred about, and that's our position. So we certainly don't want to waste the court's time, but there's really not much we can do until we're guided further by the Chief Judge.
And so it strikes me that unless Judge Brimmer, after those rulings, provides specific direction to you all as to what happens next, the only thing for us on this call to think about is whether, if he doesn't do something like that, then it strikes me that whatever shakes out from those rulings, it might be useful to then have you do an amended proposed final pretrial order, because the claims are now different. The nature of the evidence that you submit, your exhibit list, and so forth, I think those things would be affected by these rulings. And so it might make some sense to do an amended proposed final pretrial order at the appropriate time, so that when this is handed back off to Judge Brimmer for the trial, he can work from a more accurate representation of the status of things in that amended order, as opposed to working from the previous order. So it's something to think about, but perhaps that whether we do that or not, I suppose, depends on what he chooses to do based on his rulings going forward as well. So I just put that out there to the extent you all end up having any sort of status or other conferences or communications with Judge Brimmer or his chambers as those motions are getting ruled upon. You might need to pose the question at some point, either through a filing or at a conference with him, as to whether or not he would like the parties to submit an amended proposed final pretrial order. It may also be the case, if he does want that, that he'll handle that himself, as opposed to referring that to me. But does that make sense?
I certainly think it does, because, the complexion, regardless of how the court rules on the pending matters, the complexion of the case has changed somewhat, and may even change more after the Chief Judge rules. And so then, I agree with you on that, Your Honor, that it is something that perhaps we'll have to address once Judge Brimmer issues his order.
Your Honor, I agree. I think given the change in the claims and potentially further change that could come to the claims, and the experts who will come in, I think that makes a great deal of sense, and that the parties would need to do that regardless of the ruling. So I think Mr. Japha and I are aligned with the court on that.
Okay. And I think what I'll have my courtroom deputy have the minutes reflect for purposes of this call, that based on this conversation, this court has determined that there is no schedule to set at the current time, and that any additional scheduling that may be required is dependent on rulings on the reinstated motions. Therefore, once there are rulings on those motions, I guess I'll say it this way, once there are rulings on those motions, to the extent the parties do not receive any particular direction from Judge Brimmer as to the next step after those rulings, why don't you all contact my chambers? Hold on. Maybe actually you all should contact Judge Brimmer's chambers to the extent after or as he rules he doesn't give any particular direction. Contact his chambers to pose the question as to whether or not he would like the parties to submit an amended proposed final pretrial order. And then if he has you do that, I'll wait for direction as to whether I will be the one to address that amended order or if he'll handle that on his own.
Very good.
Okay. I think.
Your Honor, I have two things I'd like to add, please.
All right, well, that's all I needed to address with you.
Hello? Your Honor, I have a couple of things that I need to add, please.
Oh, I guess that's Ms. Ford.
Yes.
Okay.
Two things that I like to add. Number one, we don't have all of the discovery information from the EEOC. Heather Perkins, in her draft brief, filed that there were 90 depositions taken, and seems like we're missing 2/3 of that information. And then the second thing I like to add is that Jackson National and their counsel, Faegre, and then also Sephiroth, has engaged in nonstop 24/7, 365 bullying, intimidations, and threats because of this case. I've been reporting it to my counsel. My counsel said they spoke to Heather Perkins and her law firm, who's denying that they're actually terrorizing me, which is not facts.
Well, Ms. Japha, you're represented by counsel in this case. If there are issues that you're facing and you're seeking relief from the court, your counsel knows how to raise those issues before the court and can do so. But I'm not entertaining any discovery disputes or other arguments related to other things that may or may not be happening behind the scenes. So you need to consult with your counsel on that.
Attorney Japha, can you explain to the judge that I have raised these concerns with you and you have raised them with Heather and her law firm and the actions continue?
Ms. Ford, I think at this point we should discuss this off the record and outside the presence of opposing counsel in the court.
But we've done that. We've done that, and I'm the only person that's continuing to be harassed and terrorized. So that's why I'm bringing it to the court so they understand, because I did this when I did not have counsel and the courts ignored me then. And so I have counsel, I explained it to you, and now I'm explaining it again, and it seems like I'm still being denied the ability to have defendants' counsel stop terrorizing me.
Ms. Ford, the court can't take action in a case absent a motion filed requesting particular relief. I can't do anything based on what you're telling me. And further, typically things like that require briefings, so the other side has an opportunity to respond. The purpose of this conference is not to entertain these particular types of issues. So you'll need to further confer with your lawyer, and your lawyer can take any appropriate action if any action is warranted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Your Honor, not on the substance. I do feel compelled to respond that neither I nor my firm has engaged in harassment.
Heather, you're lying.
I have not had a
you're lying.
discussion with Mr.
Heather,
Japha
you are
about that
lying.
based on the representation.
You're a chair of the ABA and the governance board, and you are lying.
Ms. Ford, you've had an opportunity to speak. Please do not interrupt.
She's lying.
Thank you, Your Honor. I concluded my statement just that we deny any such allegation, and I will speak with Mr. Japha offline to the extent he would like to raise that with me.
Okay. The lead side has made their record on that issue, and we'll leave it there. And with that, we will adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.